Well, folks, on October 1st, 1945, Mom and Dad bought this estate at 87 Whitney Road. They paid a grand total of $10,000 for this house back in 1945. And the papers that I found, they had taken out a $6,000 mortgage on it. 15 years, and we're paying $45 a month on principal, interest, and taxes. Believe it or not, that's unheard of in this day and age. When we moved in, Ed was 9. In a couple of months would be 10. I was 6. A couple of months would be 7. And John was a year and a couple of months, soon to be 2. A lot of happy memories in this house. Slightly different view. The trees were little when we moved in. The infamous driveway. We all had to be severely challenged and tested in order to drive the car in and out of the driveway. Dad was always nervous that we'd hit the sunroom. In a second, you'll see why. In this garage is some of the history of the Powers family. We'll get that to a second. But, looking at the backyard, here's the challenge of the driveway. And backing out, I can remember Dad telling Mom, we got to swing and sway. And Marjorie's walking up the walk now. But it was always the challenge to, whoops, just kind of miss the sunroom. Phone conversations with Ed and John, the one message they gave me was to make sure that I got a tape and recorded the family history that was inscribed in the garage walls. So, here you go, folks. Mary Ann, you had your own little place there for your family. Tad, Madeline, Andy, William, and Laura. Danny, sorry it's not coming out as any better, but it's about as good as we're going to get it, folks. Swing over. Matthew's place. Ed. Ian. Swing over. My name. Joe. Laura. Carrier, 1986. Yeah, people are out mowing lawns. Famous chin-up bars that Ed put in place. High, super high. I hate to tell you this, folks, but I believe the people that are buying the house are planning to take this down so they can have a bigger backyard. One of the concerns they had was they're going to have a family room out the back and that they weren't going to have a big enough backyard. Backyard, you can see the stakes. They're going to build a family room in the backyard. Sorry about that, folks. Try and get in. This was roller skating walk as I remember it. The Nealon's house. Very nice neighbors next door. O'Hara's. Mom and Mrs. O'Hara talking over the back fence a lot. Dad cooking his ham steaks out here, which is barbecue specialty. A lot of memories here. Ed and Bob and the kids coming home from Texas, and John and Ann from California. Again, swinging around. Audrey realized that she was the only grandchild that didn't have her name scratched in, so there it is, 6593. Pretty hard to do with a paring knife. That's all we had, but she got it done. Here's some others with, there's Will's, excuse me, but there's Danny. I don't know whether I got that one. Let's see. There's Dan, Ed from 84. There's Matthew. We'll just do a quick tour around the garage here, because over on the other wall, over here, someplace, is Ned's.
Yeah.
So he made it. He took the easy route out. He did it with chalk. So there's the family history and their visits to Nana and Grandpa's. So folks, on October 1st, 1945, or maybe October 2nd, we moved in. And this is going to be tricky to try to come in and keep my balance. You'll see Marjorie and I are in the process of trying to clean out some of the house, so you'll have to excuse the mess. We'll try and fix it up. A lot of memories here. This living room. Some that come to mind for me are listening to some of the playoff games here when they played Montreal, when it used to be a 6-team NHL. Of course, that's Dad's famous chair. He'd come home and fall asleep there. And Christmas time, that's where we'd bring the loot. I'll try and get back. We can focus this a little bit better. Yeah. This is Christmas time. We put the Christmas tree in here. A crying towel that Bissell Lundblad made for Dad. Used to hang in his office. We're going to get very flashes here, folks, because of the light in the room, contrast, so bear with me. We'll refrain from going out to the kitchen, folks, because it's pretty messy. You can see there's some boxes and stuff. Yeah. We'll just take a trip upstairs. Make a visit to some of the bedrooms. And lo and behold, look who's in the mirror. Tell you, one of the great mysteries in life for me today is how 3 boys and 2 adults were able to survive with 1 bathroom. That is unheard of in this day and age. In his den. Where she sat, enjoyed TV. A lot. Here we go, that's the bedroom again. Forgive the mess, but we've been trying to get things organized. It's probably fitting that we have Dad's picture there and some stuff from his office, his mugs and so forth that we'll be sending on to Texas so that Texas and California Powerses can wrestle over it. Also appropriate Madeline's picture is here, first great-grandchild. I'm going to show you, there's all the boxes with the pictures and so forth that we're going to send. A lot of interesting pictures in there. Down to the twin bedroom. You know, I spent a great deal of my life in this room. But I'm not sure I should go up in the attic, but you know, just for old time's sake, folks. Here you go. I'm not going to go up. Obviously, everybody knows where we are now. Here's the boiler, and yes, Ed, I drained the boiler. I was here last night, and it was clear, so somebody had been in recently and drained it, so it's in good condition, so proceed to enjoy the video. You can see we've cleaned out a lot of the stuff here, but Marjorie wanted to make sure that I came down, and we got a picture of that. That Mom finally put her name on a wall and put the date 1984. One of the things that comes to mind when I walk down here and I see the paint washing off the walls and stuff, the day that I think Ed and I, probably John too, were painting down here, and we were doing typical boy things, antagonizing the heck out of each other, and a Blondie movie had just come out. And we were told that we could go see it, you know, if we finished down here and we stopped antagonizing each other, in other words, driving Mom crazy. She came down and told us that she had to go to the store for a quick errand and that she'd be back, and she said, you know, if you guys don't get along, you're not going to the movie. Well, of course, Ed and I thought that we had plenty of time, so we proceeded to pester each other, and of course, we were into it when Mom came home and found us antagonizing each other, and needless to say, we did not go to the movie that day. And of course, this is the spot, doesn't look it now, a lot of boxes and stuff, a lot of ping pong matches down here, folks, and also Ed shooting pucks into the carpet that he had hung and the fireplace screen. The house is pretty empty now. It's July 20th, and it ought to be appropriate to end this part of the tape with the kitchen, the kitchen table. A lot of happy memories here. Many meals that we had here. Suppers the Saturday nights listening to Fred Foy, Schoolboy Sports, and having Pauline's Donuts for dessert. Mom and I got into a debate whether we used to have Frankfurts and beans on Saturday night. I said we did. Mom said she didn't think that we did, but anyways, it's all up for grabs in everybody's memory. John's statement comes to mind too about having steak and snow in the same day. What a great day it was. Boy, Dad got a big chuckle out of that. Back door. Boy, we walked through here many, many, many times. Summertime, coming in from Victory Park, school, coming in from Specs Pond, skating. Just a lot of real happy moments coming in, smelling Mom's cooking. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll just finish up outside with sort of another walk around the house. This is the old alleyway where Dad used to park, fire escapes where the kids used to climb up. And Dad's office was up in here someplace. That's where the office was. And here's my tour guide. Here's Ruthie Studo. Up in here, right?
Yeah, right there. Right to fire escape.
Yeah. That's what Dad used to have coronaries every time I'd come in and see kids on the fire escape.
I know, we used to watch the dogs run down during concerts.
Yeah.
We'd watch the kids run up, and then 10 minutes later the dogs followed. They were afraid of the steps. The open space.
And there's an entrance to the new Fleet Center, where we're going to go next. This is it, folks. The new Fleet Center. Ruthie said the clock has arrived. This place is awesome, folks. This video doesn't do it justice.
Want me to explain what the seats are?
Sure.
Okay.
Here's our tour director here.
The green seats will be 3 rows in the back will be the preferred seating. That's where they have waitress service and they get a parking space. And then immediately behind that, 2 floors up, are the sky boxes. And there's 103 of those, and there's about 3,000 preferred seats. And then after that, it's just general seating again on the next level up, all yellow. And then the halo is the very top, where all the press will be.
And that goes all the way around.
Legend. And it'll be 2 floors. One is casual dining and another one is fine dining. And they'll be able to see people in ridge seating, which is the first row in front of the club there, well, right in the club, and you can actually sit there and watch the game and have dinner at the same time. And they're selling those seats as a package of only a quarter of a game. I mean, quarter of a season.
Quarter of a season.
Quarter of a season.
Jeez.
But those go for $11,000 a seat for the season.
For this,
Yeah.
just a paltry sum.
Yeah.
So mostly corporations are going to buy those seats and
Mostly
give them out,
corporations
right?
buy, well, that's nothing compared to what they're paying per seat for a skybox.
What does this skybox go for?
Skyboxes go for over $200,000 and they have to sign a 10-year lease.
10-year lease?
Mm-hmm.
So $200,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So $2 million bucks.
Over 200,000.
Over 2.
Because now that the Bruins and Celtics have established their ticket prices for the season, it changed what we thought the prices were going to be dramatically. The top price Celtics tickets now $70.
Yeah,
Bruins are 60, and Celtics have 10 prices.
that's why Elmo Carr better put together a good team.
Well, that's why Emil Kai's going to be the coach and the general manager. They can't afford the salary of a coach.
They had a conversation on the radio yesterday wanting to know whether ML Carr was going to get 2 paychecks. One is the whatever he's got, director of player or whatever, and coach. And they also thought that it was funny that they brought in Mike Jarvis and Dave Cowens and ML were interviewing, and they were saying, you know, I bet you they're surprised, all the ones that didn't get it, that that the interviewer was a primary candidate for the job. So it's incredible.
Well, I can't understand why someone would want to go back on the road again.
I know it. I know. He wants to wave the towel. They were wondering if he was going to wave the towel as the coach. This is indeed incredible.
But it really been a lot on the club. Definitely all preferred seats. Look at these cushions. Look at nicely. What color are these called? Green.
It's going to be interesting to see if they're green in a couple of years, Ruthie.
I know it. You know what? Unfortunately, when it was shown that the colors, the logo fit with the color scheme inside the building. That's what they were all upset about.
Well, it didn't take Fleet long to decide what it was going to be called, did they? You know? No.
They called it Fleet Drive. Everybody was too called Drive.
Yeah. Boy, this is.
Nice view, don't you think?
Yeah,
Nice sight lines.
great.
Take this building and put it into the America West Arena,
Mhm.
and it'll fit inside of it.
No kidding.
Well, it's only. Oh, look at the floor. Look at the floor down. There are. But I forgot how many they said, how many concession stands there were. This is pretty. It's periwinkle. You can't tell. Periwinkle color tile on here. Corridor's much wider than the garden, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
A lot more bathrooms.
Hopefully, a lot more bathrooms for the ladies.
Yeah. I know that was the #1 thing.
Look at that. They got tile on the floor.
It's not tile. It's what is it? Yeah, maybe it is.
Looks like tile.
No, it is tile.
But
This is the work that was going on. Here's one of the bathrooms. Get a picture of the bathroom.
here you go. Might as well go check out the bathrooms.
Nothing in here but sinks. Oh, yeah, there's one toilet. Here's the bathroom.
Here's the bathrooms. Yeah. This has got to be a ladies' room.
No. Is it? Yeah, I guess.
It's got to be a
It's
ladies'
gotta
room.
be a ladies' room. This is one of the ladies' rooms. See, this water's still running.
This is what it looks like coming out of one of the little entrances.
I'm all excited the clock's in here when I get the picture of that.
Yeah. It certainly beats the original one they had, where they had the minute hand and the second hand sweeping around. It wasn't even digitized. And a beautiful concrete wall, and the reverse going out with all of the staging and stuff. There you go. Hopefully this will show the color. Periwinkle blue, according to Ruthie. Know how close we are to the expressway, and I got to talk over the radio in the back.
This is the closest. It's on the
Just spent too much money for a CD, so don't pay more. Get your CDs
this is
at
where it's the
Circuit City.
closest.
Is that right?
It's only like a matter of feet. As a matter of fact, we had some kids jump the expressway onto the stage and
Oh, jeez.
entered the garden through the roof of the police.
Oh, jeez.
They got onto the garden. It's only like 6 or 7 inches.
Tired of the same old song and dance from Toyota, Mazda, and Ford? Listen to how your New England Mitsubishi dealers...
This is from went into the horseshoe. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bruins do on a full ice surface.
That's the ice pit, isn't it?
Hmm?
That's going to be the ice pit.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, the ice pit.
And they have a bar and a nice little, a beautiful curved bar in there. And I don't know, they probably could entertain about, I don't know, 30 people in there. It's beautiful. But look at the size of the door compared to over here. Here's our door for our offices. Right here. And big difference.
Yeah. This is all the office space.
This is all the office space down here. And let me see, I don't think it's open. I know it's locked, but we'll try. Yeah, they're locked. The bathrooms are all the way down the end.
Yeah, the offices are all locked because the carpets and everything are in.
They're
But
finished. We have a kitchen.
a real live kitchen, huh?
Yeah, our kitchen, I think, is this room right here. Right down to the property line, right there is where the Bean and Oyster House is.
Is it in here or down
Yeah,
further?
Right
Right in
over
here.
Right here to the right.
Sorry as I walk, but this is what's left of the Union Oyster House.
The bean pot. The bean pot
Yeah,
on the
and
wall.
Dad and Bill Burns and used to come over and see May King here.
Yeah.
Times change. Okay, this is the special entrance. This is where Dad would take his grandchildren by the hand and escort them into the wonderful world of magic, in his house of magic. And he used to just beam when you'd walk through here, whether the kids were coming to an ice show or to the circus or whatever. He always found that it was extremely interesting. I always do this fast, Ruthie. That's why I'm not a TV camera person. You know?
You might want to walk up a level so you can get it. Well,
Yeah.
you can shoot from the bottom.
But this is the,
from the Fleet Center, huh?
yeah.
There's a tour going on over there.
Yeah, I heard on the radio they have them about every 45 minutes
Yeah.
or so.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that go through. They're on the trolley stop now.
Are they?
Yeah.
And what are they going to do when this is no longer here? They
It's
tear
still
it
going to be here for a year and then still conduct the
Conduct the
tours.
tour.
But without the parquet floor.
Yeah.
Amazingly, Fleet Bank has the advertisement on the top of our clock, a little different from the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the existing scoreboard. All the banners.
This is Eddie Powers' son, Paul Powers. Yeah? Bobby wants you to meet him. He's taking pictures of the building. He went into the police center. Well, actually, you might want to do it from the center. Paul, you come over this other side. You can get the baby ears, flag and the rose banner. The rose thing.
No, it's okay. No, Danny, this is for you. A lot of great basketball games were played on this floor. You know, a lot of not so great basketball games were played on this floor. But we'll go upstairs and I'll get a shot of the parquet, the famous parquet.
How about the story of your dad laying on the concession stand counter during one of the Celtics final games because he couldn't take the heat sitting in the seat? He was in there laying on the counter listening to it on the radio.
Is that right?
Yeah, I remember him telling that story.
Here's Loge 30. And those two seats on the back is where Mom and Dad sat for all the Bruins games. It's rearranged. There used to be an aisle beside those seats, and Dad always sat on the end because he always had to get down to the count room or someplace so he could arrive and depart very, very easily. What does it cost to go on that tour, Ruthie?
No.
Uh-huh.
You go on it?
No, I don't want to go on it.
I don't know. I think it's $5.
They couldn't tell me anything that. Well, this is the famous obstructed view seats. So you could at least see half the game. And Ruthie's seat, she told me, because she's standing over there, we're right here. So do that imitation of Dad again, Ruthie. In that box is the organ, and John Kiley used to play it. The question is, how's this for a view? Where are we here, folks? Sorry, I'm trying to walk around here because the light is shining on the Boston Garden banner at the Buccaneers. And then, oh, can't get them from here.
I guess one of the kids that turned him in
Yeah?
had an outstanding warrant, so I don't think he would get it.
Do they? Yeah.
Hopefully to discourage everybody from doing it. There are people that are cutting the chairs out of here. And it was really hard to keep this building still going because they're cutting the slats off the seats. They
Jeez.
caught one guy in here after, I don't know what event, it was one of the last events this evening. Who had a, he had a sign on the wall.
Yeah, this was the door into the garden club. Yeah. Somebody probably took it for memorabilia. Yeah. And then my memory further down this walk is where we used to go through the concession stand to get to Dad's office. And now I think they made ladies and men's rooms here because the door used to be right around here. And that's where we would go to get our replacement stuff. But it was around here someplace.
He knew
But
about
that's the one
mine.
I'm in Friday with him.
He knew about mine.
Well, this is the one that
He
Charlestown.
definitely played mine. I know
Oh,
he
really?
is. And it's only 56 bucks.
No, that's the one I'm playing Friday.
Listen to this.
How much money can I
We get cookout, we get all your green seeds, cash,
Which
and
course
dinner.
is this year?
Valley meat.
Post Valley meet again? Gosh.
So next year,
No, that was,
I get some great gifts and everybody gets some wonderful.
What's it, 17?
I'll send the things out to you. We're doing them today. What do you like mine?
yeah,
And I get some great gifts for second, third. I have things like Sydney won Bostonian. Sydney bought one Bostonian with a $100. Portable California did that last year. This year I had Nancy, they had the rights to stuff down. And they need to rate that. Yeah, you see, it's great with stuff. Jimmy Buffett, Elton John.
Oh, Marjorie. This is where Adam Oates
They have a 6 week
has his equipment and stuff.
legend.
we sit up
I'm
there.
shocked to see how much he's done for us. That's not.
Yeah, I was surprised at too. Why didn't he? That wasn't that was
So I haven't seen it. I didn't go in there. You know something, Paul?
What?
No, they took the Boston Garden sign off the building, and it's in the it's behind the bar at Legends in the building.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Called
I haven't seen it yet. No, Legends.
It's the
Called
Legends.
Legends.
That must be a pretty long time.
It's almost set. Danny, that's the Celtics. Just when the sign's gone because they're taking stuff down because they don't want things stolen. Just incredible. That's the old box office, folks.
Now it's the building department.
Now the building department. I love that.
Actually, they have some like wood up against it, but it's only
This is-
you can see there's only it looks like it's only like 7 inches. See it right to the left of the black? They've got like a piece of wood that's going down next to it right
Mhm.
now. See, they can't finish off that part of the building until the building comes down. They can,
What I remember about this exhibition hall Ruthie, was the circus. They used to have the sideshow out here.
one day you can still smell the circus.
And this is my personal tour guide with her Fleet Center hat on.
Yeah, pretty soon I won't be wearing this. It's my nice, neat desk.
Yep. But no chocolates, Ruthie.
No, No chocolates.
No
But I gotta say, everybody in here eats candy like crazy. But, no, I miss the chocolates.
Well, thank you very much for the tour,
You're
the guided
welcome.
tour. I really appreciate it. It was
And I-
fun seeing you.
You too, thank you for lunch.
And
And
you're welcome. I
see
mean,
you.
it was really a great place to go, but boy, you really ate a lot. I mean, one hot dog.
I ate a lot of French fries.
Yeah.
And we'll see you at the closing.
Excuse me.
Yeah, at the closing. Yep.
No.
A true hockey folklorist and keeper of the game's legends, he has an anecdote to offer about every chapter he ever covered for the Record American and Herald Traveler of Sacred Memory, and more recently the Boston Herald and Sports Illustrated. He is a member of the writers section of the Hockey Hall of Fame, Mr. D. Leo Monahan.
Star.
1976, Mr. Johnny Barr. He will be remembered best for all the years he led his splendid New York Ranger teams into town when they featured Brad Park and Jean Martel. But before his coaching days, he was a feisty goalie for the Rangers and the Blackhawks. A member of the Hall of Fame class of 1982, Mr. Emile the Cat Francis. He was the original European import, a total player from Czechoslovakia who won 4 scoring titles, 2 Hart trophies, and quite amazingly, given the tenacity of his play, 2 Lady Bings. The essence of the Chicago Blackhawks of the 60s and 70s, and a member of the Hall of Fame, class of 1983, Mr. Stan Mikita. He'll be remembered as a sidekick of Gordie Howe on the Detroit Red Wings, and for later leading the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup that the Bruins believed they would win in 1971. But he should be best remembered as the Big M of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a member of the Hall of Fame, class of 1981, Mr. Frank Mahovlich. He was the cop on the beat, and he was probably born to play for the Boston Bruins. But he ended up in Montreal instead, where in 8 seasons he played for 5 Stanley Cup winners. Known as Fergie, he backed down from no one, a quality that Bruins fans have always appreciated. Now the player personnel director of the Ottawa Senators, Mr. John Ferguson. Our next guest has made this statement about this occasion, and I quote, "To the Boston organization and the great Boston hockey fans, I thank you for all my cherished hockey memories," unquote. It is the sort of elegant gesture that has marked his works on and off the ice for more than 40 years. The ultimate captain of the Montreal Canadiens and a member of the Hall of Fame, class of 1972, Jean Beliveau. And finally, he was the Ty Cobb of hockey, a player of such fierce will and skill that his presence on the ice was often literally chilling. They called him the Rocket. And it was evocative of his stature in his day. Time has diminished none of that. A member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, the class of 1961, Maurice the Rocket Richard. It has always been the special grace of Boston Bruin fans in this building to have a keen regard for worthy opponents who have conducted themselves with dignity. You have demonstrated that again tonight, one last time. So we thank you for that. And let us now have one last tribute to these representative hockey men.
And Derek, as the gentlemen pose for a picture, you have to have a lump in your throat after you watch that.
I'll tell you, it brought memories back as a boy. I mean, wonderful working with Fred, Maurice Richard, Jean Beliveau, Ferguson, Mahavlich, Stan Mikita, the Cat, Johnny Bauer. Johnny Bauer, my mother loves Johnny Bauer. She just, yeah, I was on a breakaway one night and I got tripped from behind and I was going in, lost the puck, and Johnny Bauer threw both legs out. In those days, the moorings of the net were attached to it very strongly. I was going to break a leg, and he just stuck his legs out and saved me. So my mother loves him ever since then.
And I know we both have a great deal of admiration and affection for our friend and colleague, Fred Cusick, and what an ovation he received. Derek, as you know better than I, he is one of the most modest, humble men that either of us know.
Sean, but
and boy, wasn't that wonderful for Fred.
But I mean, it's something, a tribute he deserves. He's a shy man, and he's very, very, actually, I like to tease him of being a curmudgeon, but he is a sweet man, and he's a great guy to work with. Wonderful tribute to him, and well-deserved.
Indeed it is. We'll come back and talk with Bruins President Harry. The last hurrah.
Morning at Union Hospital, where he was being treated for 2 severe stab wounds.
At 10:45 a.m. this morning, Union Hospital. Person
Sweeney can't get it as he spilled.
That was a nice shot by McLaren. That was a difficult one to handle. That was a, I hope it hits me type of save by Patrick Roy. And his head down there.
A heavy hit there, and a breakaway by Recchi with Damphus back. And they trade passes, and Damphus missed the net. Each member of the line had a chance there on the pass, and Damphus the final one, and the Bruins come right back, and a score by Mullen. Joey Mullen makes it 1-0 Boston.
How important it is to cash them in when you have the opportunities in this game. It repeatedly happens. Montreal come down, steal the puck at center ice, make it a little bit too fancy around the net. Blaine Locker kind of holding his position. Here's Adam Oates on the wait. Watch this. Draw it, slide it from between skate and stick, and Joey Mullen finds 5-hole. Patrick Roy beaten for the first time tonight. 1-0 Boston.
Adam Oates on the assist, and the Bruins lead. Joey Mullen 104. Third goal of the preseason. And he can score.
He just keeps on going, Joey Mullen. I asked him the other night, was at a function for Brian Curtin, and he said, the guy said, what about Joey Mullen? I said, maybe they thought he was finished 10 years ago. He's just one of those players that can play this game and play it well. Opportunistic, smart, steady.
Kental keeps it in now. Roloff trying to move it out. Stopped by Recchi. That big line on there for Montreal. Recchi.
And the team is moving into a wonderful building.
I think that sums it up beautifully, because that's the way I feel too. You know, I'm one of those people who've been looking forward to the new building and really feel that we need it. It's time for this building to go. But then you walk in here tonight and all the memories start to come back. And I wonder how often you reflect back on that goal in 1970. Is that something you think about every day, several times a day, or is it not as vivid a memory anymore?
I don't think about it a whole lot. It's brought up to me a whole lot. But,
about 4 times in this interview.
But I've been very lucky. I mean, my parents are here tonight, and I think it's the first time I'm sure it's the first time my mother has ever been in Boston Garden. She would come down here with my father, but she didn't like to see me play. I think she was afraid her little boy was going to get hurt. So my dad would come to the games. My mom would stay at home. So they're having a marvelous time, my parents in here tonight. So it's good to have them here. I've had a lot of great memories. As I said, I can remember my first game as a Bruin, league game as a Bruin against Detroit. Gordie Howe, I guess he wanted to let the kid know that he was still around. I was watching a pass, had my head down, and he hit me pretty hard. So, you know, in the '70 Stanley Cup win, it was like as yesterday, Chief carrying that Stanley Cup around Boston Garden Ice. So, a lot of great memories. We have a lot of great friends in Boston. All the teammates are here tonight, so it's a very special night.
And at least one more great memory that will remain. We think the post-game ceremony promises to be very touching.
My father said today, he says, "Gee, there's probably been a lot of tears," and I said, "Nah." As it's getting closer, I'm beginning to agree with my father. There could be some tears tonight.
You feel yourself welling up a bit.
It's going to be tough, although I do believe it's time to go to a new building. There's still a lot of special memories here, and hey, it's the last night for hockey, and it's going to be sad.
You all know who this man is. Fred, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And 42 seconds left on a Canadian.
Coming up with the conclusion of tonight's game, and that is 1 minute away. Last minute of hockey to be played at Boston Garden. For a Bruins fan, there could be no better last hurrah than a Bruins shutout victory over the Montreal Canadiens in the last hockey game at Boston Garden. Fitting that Ray Bourque should score a goal, and 2 former Beanpot players, Joe Mullen out of Boston College and Don Sweeney from Harvard, scored the others for Boston. Stay tuned. The post-game ceremony comes your way in just a moment. The final score, the Bruins 3 and the Canadiens 0.
lumbering up the ice, skating over onto the right wing.
Loving every moment of it.
It is 5-1 Boston, and this crowd is delirious.
For tonight's post-game celebration, introducing tonight's Bruins honored guests are two men who have brought Bruins hockey to generations of fans. Bob Wilson thrilled listeners with his stirring radio call for 28 seasons before retiring last season. Fred Cusick is still going strong as the television voice of the Bruins on UPN 38 WSBK TV in his 43rd season. Please welcome Bob Wilson and Fred Cusick.
Good evening and welcome to the post-game festivities of the last hurrah at the Boston Garden. We're here to salute many of the great Bruins who have performed on this ice surface over the past 67 years. Each player will be wearing the sweater representing his first season with the Boston Bruins. And joining us on the visitors' bench are those Bruins also in attendance, Bruins alumni. Okay, Bob.
Thank you, Fred. Let's get right to the introductions. We will introduce the players in alphabetical order, saving the retired numbers for the end. Each player will receive a beautiful crystal sculpture from Bruins President and General Manager Harry Sinden. Our first guest was a Bruins defenseman from 1963-64 through 72-73. He won a Stanley Cup with the Bruins in both 1970 and 72. Please welcome number 26, Don Orey.
And our next guest was a Bruins defenseman from 1954-55 through 65-66. He served as the Bruins captain from 1963 to 66 and was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1986. Please welcome number 20, Leo Boyven.
Our next guest was a Bruins goaltender from 1965 through 1972, and again from 75 through 1980. He won 2 Stanley Cups, served as coach, Jerry Jeter.
And our next guest coached the Bruins from 1974-75 through 78-79. He won the Jack Adams Trophy as the league's top coach in 1976. Is the only Bruin coach to have been honored with that award. Please welcome Don Cherry.
Through 1970 and again from 1972 through 81. He won a Stanley Cup with the Bruins in 1970. Please welcome number 26, Gary Doak.
And our next guest was a Bruins left wing from 1935-36 through 1941-42, and again 1945-46 through 1953-54. He won a Stanley Cup with Boston in both 1939, 1941, and was a three-time National Hockey League All-Star with the Bruins. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1992. Please welcome number 14, Witney Doomer.
Was a Bruins defenseman from 1944 through 1951, and again from 1954 through 1961. He served as Bruins captain from 1955 to 1961, a three-time NHL All-Star with the Bruins, elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1990. Please welcome number 14, Fernie Flannan.
Guest started his NHL career as a 16-year-old in 1942, the youngest player at that time to ever play in the NHL. He was a Bruins left wing from 1942-43 through 43-44, again 1945-46 through 46-47. He also coached the Bruins from February 1973 through the 1973-74 season. Please welcome number 16, Bette Gwynlyn.
Our next guest was a Bruins right winger from 1967 through 1976. He won a Stanley Cup in both 1970 and 72, a two-time All-Star. Please welcome number 8, Ken Hodge. Guest was the third generation of his family to serve the Boston Bruins as presidents. His grandfather, Charles F. Adams, was the team's founder, and his father, Weston Adams Sr., also served as president and chairman of the board. He served as the Bruins president for 6.5 years. Please welcome Weston Adams Jr.
Our next guest was a Bruins center from 1957-58 through 1960-61. He led the team in goals and points on 2 occasions, led the National Hockey League in goals in 59-60. He was named a second-team NHL All-Star in 1960. Please welcome number 6, Bronco Horvat.
Our next guest played 2 seasons with the Bruins, but is best remembered in Boston as the coach who led the Bruins to the 1972 Stanley Cup. He was the Bruins coach from 1970 through 73 and has served the club in various capacities since. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1970 and is currently a Bruins vice president. Please welcome Tom Johnson.
Guest was a Bruins left wing from 1975-76 through 1982-83, and his scrappy style of play made him a favorite of the fans throughout his stay in Boston. Please welcome number 17, Stan Jonathan. next guest was a Bruins left wing from 1981 to 1983. His promising hockey career was cut short when he suffered an injury in October 1982. Please welcome number 19, Normand Levier.
With the Bruins in both 1970 and 72. Please welcome number 21, Don Marcotte.
And our next guest was a Bruins center from 1954 through 1963. He led the team in scoring in 3 seasons and served as the Bruins captain from 1961 through 1963. He won the Lady Byng Trophy as the league's most gentlemanly player in 1960. Please welcome number 17, Don McKenney.
Our next guest was a Bruins right wing from 1965 through 1972. He won Stanley Cups in both 1970 and 72. Our second team All-Star in 1970. Please welcome number 19, Johnny Pie McKenzie.
And our next guest was a Bruins right wing from 1976 through 1988. He led the team in scoring in 4 seasons and in goals for 6 straight seasons from 1978 through 1984. He served as the Bruins captain from 1985 through 1988. He was a second-team NHL All-Star in 1982, won the Lady Byng Trophy as the league's most gentlemanly player in 1982. Please welcome number 16, Rick Middleton.
Next, may I present a Bruins left wing defenseman from 1953-54 through 1964. Please welcome number 19, Doug Moans.
And next, the Bruins right wing from 1971 through 1985. He led the team in scoring in 77-78, and assists on 2 occasions, and in penalty minutes in 7 seasons. He served as the Bruins captain from 1983 through 1985, and was the Bruins coach from 1986 to 1989. Number
selected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1988. Please welcome number 22, Brad Park.
Next, the Bruins right wing from 1946 through 1954, and again from 1955 through 1958. Tied for the team lead in scoring in 1951-52. Led the team in goals in 3 seasons and in assists on 1 occasion. Please welcome number 23, John Pearson.
Our next guest was a Bruins defenseman from 1949 through 1956. A 2-time All-Star with the Bruins, the first defenseman to win the Lady Byng Trophy as the league's most gentlemanly player when he won the award with Detroit in 1949. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1976. Please welcome number 11, Bill Quackenbush.
Our next guest was a Bruins center from 1975 through 1981. Led the team in assists and points in 2 seasons. Won the Lady Byng Trophy in 1976. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1985. Please welcome number 10, Jean Rattel. He served as the Bruins captain, 1954-55. He was named a second-team NHL All-Star in 1954. Please welcome number 7, Ed Sanford.
Our next guest was a Bruins center from 1967 through 1973. He won a Stanley Cup with Boston in both 1970 and 72. Please welcome number 17, Fred Stanfield.
Our next guest was a Bruins right wing from 1952 through 1954, and again from 1955 through 1964. Led the team in assists and points in 1960-61. Please welcome number 21, Jerry Topazzini.
Our next guest was a Bruins right wing from 1961 through 1972. He won Stanley Cups in both 1970 and 72 with the Bruins. Please welcome number 18, Ed Westfall.
And now to the retired numbers. We have in attendance tonight 3 family members of players who are deceased and whose numbers have been duly honored. they will receive the framed banners as a memento of the evening from 3 current members of the Bruins who are native Bostonians.
Our next guest is the daughter of professional sports' first Iron Man. He played 20 seasons in a Bruins uniform at both right wing and defense from 1927 through 1947 and served the team as its captain for 14 of those seasons. He's the only Bruin to have played on 3 Stanley Cup championship teams, winning titles in 1929, 39, and 1941. He was the first player to be enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame immediately upon his retirement as a player on February 12, 1947. He also served the team as coach for 4 seasons. His number 5 banner will be lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by the Bruins' Steve Leach. Please welcome Aubrey Dick Clapper's daughter, Marilyn Armstrong of Toronto.
And our next guest is the granddaughter of an original Bruin. Came to the team in 1924-25 season. His leadership taught a young team to win. Helped lead the Bruins to their first Stanley Cup. Won their first season in Boston Garden 1928-29. Only 15 Bruins have worn the captain's C, and he was the first. And he'll have his number 3 banner lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by Ted Donato. Please welcome Lionel Hitchman's granddaughter, Claudia Coburn of Ottawa.
Our next guest is the son of hockey's first superstar. He was the only defenseman in league history to win 4 Hart trophies as the NHL's most valuable player. He was an 8-time All-Star, a number unmatched by any player of his era. He won 2 Stanley Cup championships with Boston in 1929 and 1939, and in 1945, he was among the first group of inductees into hockey's Hall of Fame. His number 2 banner lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by the Bruins' Steve Hines. Please welcome Eddie Shore's son, Edward Ted Shore Jr. of Springfield.
And now to the 4 players who are with us tonight to watch their banners be lowered for the final time at Boston Garden. Our next guest is the only man to have served the Bruins as a player, coach, and general manager. He has won more Stanley Cup titles with the Bruins than any other person, capturing 2 as a player in 39 and 41, 2 more as the club's general manager in 1970 and 72. He was a 4-time NHL All-Star, won both the Hart Trophy as the league's MVP and Ross Trophy as the National Hockey League scoring champion. Despite missing 3 seasons while serving his country in World War II, still ranks among the top 10 on the club's all-time list of games, assists, and points 40 years after he retired. He'll have his number 15 banner lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by Don Sweeney. Please welcome number 15, Milt Schmidt.
You've probably seen more games in this building than anybody. This is the last hurrah. As you stand here at center ice, what do you feel?
Well, it's always been said that I played this game with a lot of heart. And believe me, seeing all these people and the ovation that I've received tonight, every second of it was worth it. And thank you so much for everything.
Milt Schmidt.
Our next guest is one of the greatest left wings to ever play in the NHL. He played 21 seasons in a Bruins uniform, serving as captain for 5 years. He was twice an NHL All-Star and won 2 Lady Byng trophies as the league's most gentlemanly player. Nearly 20 years after his retirement, he remains the club's all-time leader in nearly every offensive category. He won 2 Stanley Cups with Boston in 1970 and 72. Now we'll have his number 9 banner lowered for the presentation of the framed banner by Cam Neely. Please welcome number 9, John Busick.
Chief, you and I have been around the block a time or two together. As they close this old lady on Causeway Street, how do you feel?
Well, Bob, I'll tell you what, after watching today's game, it's going to be a lot cooler in a new building, but I'm going to miss this grand old building with all these great fans.
Johnny Busick.
And our next guest set new scoring standards in the National Hockey League. He was the first player in NHL history to record 100 points in a season, and he shattered the league record for goals in a season with an incredible 76 goals in 70-71. He was the league scoring champion on 5 occasions. He won 2 Hart trophies as the league's most valuable player. He was an 8-time NHL All-Star, won 2 Stanley Cups with the Bruins in 70 and 72, and he was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1984. Now we will have his number 7 banner lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by Adam Oates. Please welcome number 7, Phil Esposito.
Philip, you've always said the best years of your playing career were spent on this Boston Garden ice, right?
The best years of my life was in Boston, to tell you the truth. And also, the greatest thrill of my life was when Mr. Bork gave me a nice sweater.
Phil Esposito.
And our next guest is the greatest player in the history of the National Hockey League. He remains the only defenseman to ever lead the league in scoring, accomplishing that feat twice. A 9-time All-Star, he was named the league's most valuable player 3 times. He won 8 Norris trophies as the National Hockey League's best defenseman, and twice won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the NHL's playoff MVP, following Boston's Stanley Cup victories in 70 and 72. He was the first defenseman to score 100 points in a season, the first player in NHL history to record 100 assists in a season and score 6 consecutive 100-point campaigns. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame upon his retirement as a player in 1979. Now we'll have his number 4 banner lowered with a presentation of the framed banner by Ray Bork. number 4, Bobby Orr.
Reminds me of another night they had here. Welcome back to the Garden, kid.
Thank you, Bob. It's great to be back. It's a very special night. I know it's special. It's a very special night, and I know it's got to be special because my mother is here tonight, and she's never been in Boston Garden, so it must be a very special night. So thank you all.
Number 4, Bobby Orr. We are now going to ask all of the alumni to please get together for a picture, and we'll be ready to go shortly for a final skate around the Boston Garden.
Bruins as they skate around Boston Garden for the final time.
As soon as they remove the carpet on which the participants were standing in the center ice area, they'll begin the skate. Seems as though the players don't want to leave. And you can understand that. It's another night that reminds us how fortunate we are to live in this city. There's a poster that is hanging in several places around Boston Garden that says, "You can tear down the building, but not the memories." And tonight, what memories have been added to the lore of this great building? The Bruins' victory over Montreal in the final game, Ray Bourque fittingly scoring a goal. Then the tremendous reception for all of the Bruins after the game, particularly for Bobby Orr. The triumphant return of Don Cherry, including a handshake and embrace with Harry Sinden. And without question, most emotionally, the return to Garden Ice of Norman Levier, skating to take his position among the Bruins. For Derek Sanderson and Fred Cusick, Sean McDonough, for the final time, saying so long from Boston Garden.
snap a ham. Oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not nice.
Well, he had
Say
his
you're
hand
sorry.
dangling in front of it, so
You should.
Thought it was food.
Well, he barked at it too. Just put your hand up so you can do it again.
Okay, Auntie Barbara.
We're on tape.
You're on tape.
Okay, now what are we talking about?
Memories.
Memories. Well,
Your first memories of the Boston Garden.
my first memories of the Boston Garden, going into the concession department where my father worked, and being able to stay there while everybody else went out to the circus one time, because I didn't like watching the man be fired out of the cannon. I cried so hard they had to leave me with my father. And that was the first thing I saw. And I don't remember in my early days being allowed to go to hockey games or basketball or anything like that. Mostly the ice capades and follies and the circus. That was, oh, and the rodeo. I remember the rodeo. Coming out of shoot and thinking, oh, Dallas, Texas, oh, that must be the
Ardmore,
most wonderful.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd say that, and I'd say, oh boy, that Cowboys, that must be a wonderful place. Never did I ever dream I'd be there. So that was, but that was mine. And Dan, what was your first?
My first memory?
Of the Boston Garden. This is the Boston Garden.
When did we go there?
I don't know, you went to a nice show there with your grandmother down in the front row.
Ice capades.
I think you only went to one hockey game in the skybox.
Yeah, sitting in the skybox watching the hockey.
And getting lots of food, huh?
Getting lots of free food.
Lots of free food.
When Larry Moultrie came up to find out who we were, disturbing his peace, he was down below with his kids, and he asked the attendant out in the hallway. Once he found out who we were, he had all this food sent in. Pizzas and what else?
Pastries.
Boston Garden, let's see. Memories of the Boston Garden were going into Dad's office, running the adding machine, and the electric typewriter when electric typewriters were new.
Right, and totally destroying them so when the people came in on Monday morning, they'd have...
Yeah.
They'd be...
Then the hallway outside with all the pictures going down the length of the hallway. You had all the historic pictures of the garden.
And certainly going in on Sunday afternoons with Dad and counting tickets.
Counting tickets in the back.
With your Daniel Boone hat
Head
on.
usher guy had my Davy Crockett hat on. I went in and there was some head usher guy, and he came in and started counting tickets, and he started talking blue up one side and down the other, and somebody said, "Hey, there's a kid in here." Where? He looked around, and I was over there, and so from then on, everybody was just talking nice generalities about the weather and the events. It was very strange to be in the building listening to the game on the radio that was going on about 30 feet outside the door.
I remember when I was very young, I do remember when at that little telephone booth, because Witney
Walsh.
Witney Walsh, I was so fascinated by the large switchboard that she worked. I thought that must be the most wonderful job to have in the whole world, is to work that switchboard. But I was pretty young, and I think she left quite soon. Was she there?
Oh, she stayed there for a long time.
Or did she? No.
I think Ruthie told me that she just passed away recently. But she was Miss Personality. I mean, she was the voice of the Boston Garden. And if you had a complaint, you better hope to God you didn't get a hold of Winnie.
I just remember that some colorful characters that from past. No, I wasn't young. It was later with Tony Noto. I liked Tony Noto Giacomo very, very much. He was kind to us. Not in the Boston Garden, although we knew him from there. It was the old arena? Boston Arena, where the Olympics played. That was our big thing. Those were the games I remember. And him taking us home occasionally to Dorchester after the game, and my sister falling in love with the Olympic hockey. She fell in love with one guy. She just was so mad for him, and Tony knew this, and we used to sit behind him, but he was kind of a shy kid. And he got hurt, and he had to go to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, and Tony had to take him, so he took us home too. She got to sit beside Walter Klume. And I mean, that was the greatest thrill of her life. And to stretch out the evening, Tony decided we would go to Holiday Inn for something to eat. The poor kid, I was a mess. He was all cut, and he's "You don't mind coming along, do you, Walt?" On the way to the hospital. But those are some of the. I guess I remember the arena too, the Boston Garden arena. Ed, what's your earliest? You're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
Well, I mean, the oldest
Yeah.
person to go in there.
My first memory is the Boston Arena. The very first time I ever was on ice skates. I have no idea how old I was. Maybe 4 or 5. I know what the skates look like to this day. So I remember the arena first, but the garden, in elementary school, the Olympics used to play, when I was in elementary school, the Olympics used to play on Friday nights, and I think maybe Sunday afternoons for sure. So I remember going into that, and also we used to go in to see GBI, Greater Boston Interscholastic League hockey. They typically play on Saturday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. And then as I got older, selling peanuts, popcorn, and all that kind of stuff in the garden, that's when I really got to know the garden, because we used to, go all over the place, and we were assigned certain sections up in the balcony. That's why I wanted Danny to go up to the balcony and see how steep those steps were going down last night. Olympic Games during high school, Medford High School played in there, and I remember my first game, I was playing left defense, I guess, and just thinking how big that rink was. My God, to skate from one end to the other is just staggering. But Olympic Games, where I remember the 3 Burns girls sitting down behind the bench, and that was before they had glass partitions separating the spectators from the, there'd be Mary, Barbara, and Betty. I remember talking to them upstairs outside the old office by the elevator while we were waiting for our respective fathers.
Right.
We were all, you and I were in high school.
Right.
And but I remember Russ Bates, who was, all the people who have made the garden so special. There's Russ Bates, who was Barbara's father's kind of like assistant, right-hand man. We were talking about Charlie Gorman, who was the night watchman. Do you remember him? He was big, heavy-set man. Roger Thayer, who was a policeman, who was always stationed downstairs in the East Lobby, where we went last night. Oh, Eddie Lee. I was very pleased to see that Eddie Lee's in the Hall of Fame. Like you say.
He was the head of the bull gang.
Well, he was superintendent, so the bull gang was under him. And then Tony. I think is Tony in the Hall of Fame? Did I see his plaque there?
No.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Kingsley Brown.
Kingsley Brown, yeah. And Ruthie, John Dion, I was happy to see his plaque there. I didn't realize he eventually became vice president for finance or something like that. That was great. But I think all the people that were kind to us as kids, really what made growing up in the Boston Garden so special. The ushers.
But it was more than that for me. I guess it was because it was a second home in a way, not just because we went there so often, but because Grandpa Powers and Grandpa Burns were buddies. And I grew up hearing about the Powerses and things they would do, and the funny jokes they would play on people. And one of my favorite stories about Grandpa Powers and Grandpa Burns is that there was some guy, do you remember the name of that boy? He was a lazy boy, worked the balconies and everything, but what they'd do is they'd send him out with his bucket of stuff to sell, and he'd sit down. And then if somebody saw him, he'd look like he was selling the stuff. And so they caught on to him pretty fast, but they couldn't get him to work. I mean, they didn't accuse him of anything. So, but apparently this boy did not know your dad. Why? I mean, being in the Boston Garden, but I guess he just never got a chance to see him. So your father said he would cure this very quickly, and they told the guy that they had the doctor, the Bruins doctor, and they were going to he was going to kind of check him over to see if there's something wrong, that he had to sit down so much and rest. And your father went down, got a black bag, put a hose, I don't know. They were gathering stuff all day, and in this black bag, and so they brought the guy into my father's office, and they told him to take off his shirt. Your father started checking him over, thumping here and there, and then he told him to take his pants off, but they thought he needed an enema. And the guy ran out saying, "I'll work."
No, he took out the hose.
Yes.
It's like a garden hose.
Yeah, but they had connectors. I mean, they really worked all day. I mean, keeping themselves busy. If they didn't have enough to do, they worked all day preparing. It was getting more fun, you know, and they really got into it. And the guy ran out saying, "I'll work, I'll work." And I love those stories because it's kind of like any busy man will do inventive things just to keep from the tensions. They would do these horrible things to people, and the watchmen that were in the North Station.
The watchmakers.
They were two bitty, sort of little old men that were like little old ladies.
They repaired all the watches for the railroad conductors and things like that.
And they knew both men, and so they decided to play a trick on them. And because they loved to talk and be little natters, my father went in and asked some question and left, and then Grandpa Powers went in and they said something about Mr. Burns, and so he told them some bad things about my father, kind of started trashing him out and saying what a horrible man he was and everything. they were just so happy with that juicy little gossip. And then they went around the corner and they were busy telling each other, and then the two of them come back arm in arm and hi.
Yeah, I think that went on for
yeah,
some
they
time.
kept it going for a week.
Because then Bill Burns would come in and say,
oh,
that Eddie Powers,
he
you know, he did this.
They could chew on that for a week. So I loved those stories, and because all those people became like extended families. People, you know, you got so used to hearing about Kingsley and hearing about the different people, they really became real. So going in there was not just going to an event, it was really going to people we knew well. And we accepted, and I think that for most kids, that was a unique experience. I met Roy Rogers, who was absolutely my all-time hero. My father took me in the back. We got to go in the back, I'm sure you got down there too, and meet the people behind the scenes, and that was a treasure in my life to be able to do that. And, it's hard to just pick out one memory. It's just like a collage of things that come in if you sit in there and think about it. Now, John hasn't told his memories.
Yeah, but another one was going in and ice skating. I think Eddie took us in with his buddies. And,
right from Medford High School.
Yeah,
we got a chance to skate on the rink at the Garden, so that was pretty
After
special.
the game or something?
No, it was just an afternoon or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And,
we did that a few times.
We do it after a Bruins practice.
Yeah, but nobody else was ever allowed in there to skate on
It was
it.
definitely a no-no.
I remember, was it Dickie Warner that had the old Model T, Ed, with the rumble seat?
Model A.
Model A, yeah. And riding in the rumble seat going in.
Yeah, whenever occasionally I buy an ice cream called Bonbons. They're vanilla ice cream and coated with chocolate. And I remember one time I found them somewhere, and Barbara said, "Why are you doing this? You never eat ice cream or dessert." But when we were hustlers during ice capades, I can remember we'd be sitting up there in the steps of the first balcony, waiting for the last act to finish, and that was Donna Atwood and Bobby Speck would always be in that last act doing Snow White or something that I thought was just so sickening. But being a kid in high school, you know, I'd eat probably 5 packages of those Bonbons waiting for the thing to go. And of course, we had that came out of our pay.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, and now that we're talking about, I thought he was kind of a stingy vendor in our day, because we were used to the vendors, the young, what would you call them?
Hustlers.
The young hustlers would come down and sit and talk to us, and they would give us free candy, and I thought, and free ice creams and stuff. And I thought, gee, Ed Powers must be stingy. He never, ever offered us a free anything. I didn't realize he had to pay for it himself. So I decided to marry that man, and I would get my ice creams and everything else. I'll make him pay everything.
Well,
I'll fix him.
Let's see. I think you got it.
Okay, it's on.
So, what's your memory of Boston Garden?
I have quite a few memories of the Boston Garden. Certainly, some of the fun times was getting out of Hobbs Junior High School when I was in the 9th grade, so I could go in and run the elevator or work up in the second balcony, in about the 9th, to go in the afternoon, because the ushers couldn't get out of work in the afternoon, so they had to bring other kids in.
That was during
to
the
do that.
circus.
During the circus,
yeah.
So that was great. You get in early out and travel into Boston and run the elevator, and it was great. And of course, Dad always wanted me to study, so I bring my books along and at least go through the motions for him, so he'd be comfortable that I at least had my textbooks with me. Also, certainly going into the circus as kids, and I remember that your father would send down, you know, hats and whips and whatever else, and then Mom would have a coronary when we'd come home with all of this junk, and we wouldn't want to eat supper or whatever because we had eaten so much junk, cotton candy and hot dogs and everything else while we were there. I think that one of the most vivid memories was watching Dad walk his grandchildren out to the House of Magic. You know, he'd just sort of straighten up a little bit and have them by the hand. And, you know, that's the one time I saw him really interact with his grandchildren. And he'd be telling them that he was now going to take them to the House of Magic. And he'd be weaving all of these yarns, you know, about, you know, this would happen and that happened and so forth. And the kids would be there and their eyes would be, you know, as big as dollar bills and just taking the whole thing, you know, all in. And he really enjoyed that. I remember Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, getting in the car, driving to Haverhill, leaving Haverhill, going to Lawrence, and then, you know, Mary gotta go, gotta get back, and then we'd be driving back home to Medford, and he'd be talking about the fact that, you know, the garden should be filled that night because the college kids were home and they would come in, and of course those were the days when the NHL was six teams, and they were always battling for last place in, you know, the NHL. And we'd go in, and they, sure enough, they would be, you know, filling the place. The college kids would be home. And then Dad would always talk about Bobby Orr and the fact that, you know, this was the guy who was going to make the franchise and so forth. I remember that he called us in 1970. We were in Australia, and told us that the Bruins had won the Stanley Cup and that Orr scored the winning goal. There's lots of, you know, fond memories of that. I'm real happy that the Bruins won, you know, while he was still alive, because he worked so hard. He wanted the Bruins to win. And so those are some of the memories that I have. And then, of course, I remember, you know, going in with Mary, and come to find out after we were married that she was enduring it, that she really wasn't into sports and so on and so forth. And then we go to the Hall of Fame game, and we're up in the Skyview boxes, and Ruthie goes off to get Bobby Orr to come in and meet us. And Mary is standing there and telling Bobby Orr how she was never really an avid sports fan, never really enjoyed coming into the games and so forth, but she did enjoy coming in to watch Bobby Orr play. And needless to say, I was completely floored. And Mary was talking to Bobby Orr like they were, you know, friends from way back. You know, and Marjorie and Steve were there, and they had a great time, and they had their picture taken with Bobby Orr, so they were thrilled too. So that's about it.
The lady,
Go ahead, Mary.
She had pointed shoes. I didn't realize there were holes in that seat. So she kept kicking the back of my, well, no, I don't want to. That's not a fun memory. It was a horrible thing.
Yeah, it is. Because there were people that used to sit just underneath the first balcony there, and the people would stand up to cheer the Bruins or the Celtics or whatever, and knock their beer over and spill it on everybody. I mean, that's just sort of a...
My spine is a little out of alignment this morning after going to the wonderful Memory Lane show last night, because this lady kicked me all night. Finally, I moved forward on the seat. Then finally, it got so bad, I put my pocketbook behind me. I looked at her many, many times and hoped that would be a gentle thing like you are kicking my seat, but she didn't stop.
She didn't get it, huh?
I don't know whether she didn't realize it was her feet. Maybe she thought I had a tick or something.
Okay, Mary.
We want to hear about the animals.
What's your fond memory of the garden, Mary?
Well, Paul said I would only have bad memories. I don't know why he says that. But I will remember, it must have been at the end of our junior year, and synthetic fur had just come out. And I had got this midnight blue synthetic fur coat. And they were relatively expensive then. So I went into one of the ice shows. And we were sitting right in front.
Mary, are you supposed to see your face?
Well, I'm talking to the camera. So anyways, we went into the ice show, sitting in the front seat. And during the ice show, there was someone whose little animals dressed up with skates on. And of course, he had to come and sit right on my lap. And of course, the problem was he had been already sliding all over the ice, so his furry thing was all wet. And he's sitting on my new fur coat. And I am screaming, get out of here! Which I don't think you were supposed to do. But anyways, but one of the other memories I have, and no one's mentioned this, and it wasn't in the thing last night, was I remember going into the garden, and it must have been when we were dating, or maybe early 60s. But I remember when Cardinal Cushing came in. And it was, I know, after Blindstrom's were in town, when I say Blindstrom's, and they were having a
It was like a fundraiser.
Benefit, right. And I remember the Cardinal coming in. And And I remember preceding him were all the state police. I mean, it was like a king was coming, you know. They had up state police, and he came in with all of his robes. It was really impressive. Yeah, I think it was for the benefit for Lindstrom's.
But you know, you were also talking about Dad and the jokes that he played. I remember Johnny Dion had just had an operation, and he was out for a while. And so Dad called Barbara Dion to find out how John was doing. But Barbara didn't catch on that it was Dad. So he started asking her, of course, all these questions about the Dion family. You know, how many children do you have? What are their names? What are their ages? You know, what does your husband do? How much money does... I mean, Dad just pulled no punches. And Barbara was volunteering all of this information. So when they got all said and done, he said to Barbara, you know, he said, I know more about your life than you would want anybody else to know. He said, you shouldn't be giving out all of this information over the phone. So she finally realized who it was, and I can remember I went over with him to see Johnny, and he was in bed all propped up and so forth. And so Dad was reeling back to him all of this information he had received from Barbara, and Johnny was trying to figure out how in the hell he knew all of these intimate details of the Dion family. And he finally ended up telling him that he and Barbara had an anonymous phone conversation where she volunteered all of the information. Okay.
So, favorite foods of the garden?
Oh, favorite foods.
Favorite
okay.
foods. Let's see, the popcorn machine down in the lobby. The peanuts from Nick the Peanut Man.
Yeah.
Oh,
At
good.
the foot of the,
Very
foot of
good
the
one.
ramp always was so nice to see you, Mrs. Powers, and pulled his hat off all the time and started handling, gave her one bag and gave each of us about 5 bags as we went up. Pizza for a while in the garden was okay.
The garden club?
I remember the caramel corn that came wrapped up in a wrapper. Used to get that. I don't know if that was just circus or not. That and then the guy selling the chameleons.
Yeah.
Would come down in the circus.
Oh, really?
Stand right in front of the kids and then put the chameleon right on you and look at the parent and say how many. And the chameleons lived, what, probably
10 minutes?
6 days
Oh,
afterwards.
6 days.
So
Well, that was
take
good.
it home
That was good.
in a fishbowl. So I think we had one live long enough that we set it free.
Well, for me, bombs during the escapades were the only way I could get through the show.
I liked the Peanut Man's peanuts, so that brought home. So I would have thought, Ed, that your favorite food was the hot dogs. Dad loves to have hot dogs with all of this. We actually, and in fact, do you know that in all the time I never was into the garden club